Number 1. Mahatma Gandhi and the Jack the Ripper. Gandhi is so connected to the events of the 20th century Titanic that it may be strange to imagine him as a dapper gentleman of Victorian society. But that is exactly what he became while studying law in London, arriving in September 1888, right in the midst of the Gandhian riots. Obviously had nothing to do with the Jack the Ripper murders. But it's fun to think that Gandhi could have been a suspect in the most famous murder case. Number 5. Nintendo and Jack the Ripper. Even though Jack the Ripper and Nintendo were around at the same time. Timey never had the opportunity to play classics like Zelda and Mario. They originally made playing cards called Hanafuda, when the company was founded back in 1889. At the same time, the infamous Jack the Ripper was wreaking havoc on the streets of London. His series of murders occurred just a year before Nintendo came along. Number 6, Star Wars came out the same year. Number 2, the same turtle belonged to both Charles Darwin and Steve Irwin Harriot. The turtle was reportedly collected by Charles Darwin during his visit to the Galapagos Islands in 1835 as part of his expedition. She was then transported to England and finally brought to her final home in Australia by the captain of the HMS Beagle, the ship on which Charles Darwin made his expedition. And as we all know, turtles can live quite a long time, and by a funny coincidence, Harriet ended up in the Steve Irwin Zoo, which is how Charles Darwin's pet turtle was adopted by the legendary crocodile hunter. But some doubts about this story were caused by the fact that Darwin never visited the island, from which Harriet came anyway. Her age was estimated at 175 years old. By the time she finally died in the Steve Irwin Zoo, her life was an absolute victory. Number 3, ecstasy was invented the same year the Titanic sank. The unsinkable Titanic sank in 1912 after sinking in the North Atlantic Ocean. 4 days after the ship's maiden voyage from Southampton to Newt, in the same year, the pharmaceutical giant MC was interested in developing substances that stopped abnormal bleeding. One of their chemists, Anton Kisch, synthesized MDMA to avoid a patent from German competitor Bayer. Only in 1997, the psychoactive effects of this drug began to be taken seriously, and its recreational use spread later through the personal networks of psychotherapists, psychiatrists, psychedelic users, and yuppies. Yes, all those who died on the Titanic never had the opportunity to try this drug. By the way, ecstasy raised body temperature, so if it had been invented earlier, it might explain why the captain was so desperate to ram the iceberg. 10. Microsoft was founded, while Spain was still under fascist dictatorship. Number 4, woolly mammoths and the Egyptians. I think this fact is more popular nowadays, but I still want to include it because it's a real classic. As I established earlier, woolly mammoths went extinct about 4,000 years ago, when human societies already existed around the oldest of the Great Pyramids in Egypt, the Djoser Pyramid, which was built about 1,000 years before they went extinct. Which means that while man was busy building some of the most incredible structures ever created,